Alright, hi everybody, Ryan here again. Today we're out in, where am I? Twin Falls, Idaho. What is today? The 22nd January 2021. So, took a load out to Montana, then had to run down here to pick up another load going back to Indiana, paying pretty well and all that. So, topic I wanted to talk about today is kind of goes along with the theme we've been talking about the last few videos that I've put out in regards to the truck and truck maintenance. As far as DPF, emissions, and all that type of stuff, I recently did put a new DPF filter canister center section in my DPF, so if you've watched those videos, I think we did 3. We did kind of a familiarization, and we did a removal, disassembly, then a assembly and reinstallation into the truck, and ran it through its paces and all that as far as a forced regen, then reset the pressure sensors, differential pressure sensors or soot levels with the PDI that I have here in the truck. So if you watch those, I had some questions about that. You do need to do a forced regen I highly recommend it. So you either have to have Cummins Insight or to do a DPF install, or a unit like the PDI where you can force it to do a full forced regen, and then run test both of those sensors, the differential pressure sensor, the before ash and after ash, to reset those levels and for everything to work properly. So you do need something. If not, you will get like the little service code or wrench that will flash, and it'll tell you that it says something about DPF install or something. I can't remember exactly what the code says, but it doesn't stay on. It'll just flash because it knows something isn't right because the pressure levels have changed. So I just want to answer that question real quick. But what I really wanted to talk about is doing DPF, EGR, or basically an emissions delete on your truck. I mean, I have the Cummins IS615, the CM2250. These are, as far as emissions go, EGR and DPF, SCR, and all that, these are pretty maintenance intensive. I mean, to stay on top of them and keep everything running properly, I mean, you got to constantly keep up with it. It costs a lot of money. So there are some, and I kind of want to give you my take on this as far as, with any truck, as far as actually going through with one of these deletes. And I'll give you some of the cons, or the pros and the cons, and kind of my view on things and what I think about it here at the end. So kind of jump right into it. So you can delete. There are companies out there that offer these emissions deletes, so that you can block off they'll retune the truck. They'll either do it the physical work, the hardware work, or they'll block off EGR cooler, take the EGR valve out, or make it into a dummy or whatever. Then there's ways. Your DPF, they'll basically shut it off to where it won't regen, everything will be there. They'll take that big canister off that you saw in my previous videos, and you'll knock that wafer or that honeycomb out of there, and just take a 4-inch drill and just drill a big hole through it and knock all that out so it's a straight through exhaust. Some of the benefits with doing this is obviously you won't have the emissions problems anymore that go with these engines. Better fuel economy. Since because that regen, you have that little injector that they call it the 7th injector, but there's actually an 8th injector too, but it's not fuel, and I'll explain that in a second. But the 7th injector, quote unquote, is right up usually on the Cummins IS615, 2250, CM2250 like I have. There's an elbow that comes off your exhaust on your turbo, and that's actually has a little fuel line to it, and it injects fuel, which goes down to the catalyst and starts that whole process of heating up and burning off the carbon in the DPF. And so then there's technically like an 8th injector, if you want to call it that, but there's a DEF doser or a doser module that's up on the SCR, and that unit is what injects the DEF into the SCR. Then that has a reaction or burns, and that's what brings down the NOx level. So there's really 2 components to that system, but down there it's not all kind of one thing. There's 2 canisters, or 2, like I said, DPF, SCR. That's kind of how that works. So you can eliminate all that. The truck won't do any regens, but I was getting to on fuel economy. You have that little injector that injects fuel. So if your truck's regening, that thing's using fuel. So you eliminate that, you're going to get better fuel economy, with not be using that extra fuel for regens. You won't have to buy DEF anymore, so you save money on that. So better mileage. You don't have to, don't have to worry about all the sensors and all that stuff anymore. And not as much back pressure and all that on the engine. So that could be better as well. So that's most of the pros right there. So like I said, fuel economy, no more emissions problems for the most part. And I think the engine probably, the older engines that don't have this stuff on them seem to last a lot less problems and seem to have a little bit better longevity, last longer, and kind of less maintenance requirements. So I'm going to kind of go two ways with the pros here. I mean, the first part is kind of mechanical, then the second part is going to get a little legal issues and kind of ties into some political issues. Which things have changed here recently. So the first thing, when you get one of these tunes, you can have somebody come out and do everything, where they'll do all the hardware stuff and the software stuff, and about 50% of the time they don't have the software, they don't have the tune right. And it seems to be a lot of guys, they'll run this truck 10-20,000 miles and they melt down their turbo. And I know on this truck here, I put a new turbo on it at about 600,000. It had the original one on it, and I just wanted to change it out so I didn't have any trouble with it. I called Cummins for the turbo and the actuator. You're into, with no labor, just going there and buying a turbo for a Cummins ISX15 CM2250 like I have. You're in almost $9,000 for that unit. And the actuator, I didn't ask if the actuator was already calibrated or if that was extra to have that done. I bought my turbo reman at D&W Diesel up in Cleveland, which I've talked about them before. And I'm not sponsored by them or anything else. It's just a place that I use that's pretty reasonable, and you can save some money there. They got a couple other locations. I know some people had asked where I got my stuff at. That's where I just got my DPF canister / filter at. Pretty reasonable. So again, that's D&W Diesel. They're pretty big in upstate New York. They got an office or a store in Cleveland, and I think they might have something out in Colorado or something. So if you can look them up online, they will ship stuff. They ship stuff to my dad down south. He's bought stuff from them. So it's somebody that I found when I was working out as a mechanic in the Akron, Cleveland area that we bought stuff from. So I bought my turbo, and they bench calibrated the turbo actuator up there with Cummins Inside or whatever they use to do it, and I paid like $4,700 or something and put it on. I mean, they're really easy to put on, but still, even with that, I mean, if you melt down a turbo, you're probably looking, even if you put it on yourself and you buy it cheap somewhere, get a good deal, you're still going to be in about $5,000 that you can in 10-20,000 miles if those parameters aren't done right. So that's one of the major drawbacks is you don't know. And the thing is, if that happens, it's basically like behind a bad bag of drugs or something. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to go to the police and say, I deleted emissions on my truck, or the Better Business Bureau, and say, hey, I did something illegal and they didn't do it right. So, I mean, there's no recourse for these companies that are offering this, or these people offering this type of stuff. If they don't do it right, I mean, they might offer a warranty or something, but if you're still not satisfied, there's really, since you're technically doing something illegal and it ain't supposed to be on the road, there's really no place, as far as the government or Better Business, there's really nobody that you can go to because you technically shouldn't be doing it. I mean, if things, I'm all for if it's it's not illegal till you get caught type of thing, but with that type of issue. So I mean, if you get a bad tune and don't work out, I mean, there's not a whole lot of recourse with whoever did it. I mean, like I said, unless they're stand by their word, if they'll fix it. So that's one problem with that. The second thing is if you go to sell that truck, you could have trouble. I mean, so maybe you're probably going to need to disclose it to the whoever you're going to sell it to. I know I've heard of a lot of people buying trucks and it wasn't disclosed to them, and they take it to a dealer or something to get work on, and the dealers, they will refuse, they won't work on them. I mean, you're going to have to find, if you do this, you're going to have to be set up like with the tools that I have and have a little bit of knowledge to where you can work on this thing yourself, because most shops aren't going to touch it with a 10-foot pole. I mean, they're going to come in, they're going to hook up to it, and they're going to see the emissions are deleted, and they're going to send you out the door because they don't want any of the liability or anything, or they won't mess with them at all. Like your Kenworths, Peterbilt, Freightliner, and all them. Those are no longer going to be an option for you for the most part. So you're either going to have to be able to do the stuff yourself, or you're going to have to kind of find a small shop or somebody that you know that has the electronic tools. I mean, Cummins Insight or J Pro or whatever, to be able to work on different engines. I mean, whatever you have, you're gonna have to be suited, set up with that type of stuff, or know somebody that is, to be able to work on anything. Because, like I said, most mainline dealers aren't going to deal with it because of the liability and the legal issues with that. So, because there are pretty big fines associated with this stuff if you get caught. And I'll tell you, a couple of years back, there was some guys over in Pennsylvania that had a dump truck company or logging or something. They were kind of a local deal, from what I heard, not like over the road trucks like I do. And I guess there was a guy, the mechanics, I guess, in the company, it was a smaller company, they had a lot of issues with the emissions, so they decided to delete all the emissions on the trucks that they had, dump trucks or whatever, log trucks, I can't remember. And I guess they had a disgruntled employee who got fired or quit or whatever, and he went and reported them to the authorities, whoever, maybe EPA or whatever. And they came back, and they came after the company, they came after the mechanics that did it. I mean, I think the mechanics are looking at like $50,000 fines or something, and possibly jail fines. So these are, and I'm not these systems, they're garbage. I mean, the whole idea of this, I think, is asinine. I mean, putting this, if you guys watch other videos, you see that filter. I mean, running a 15-liter engine's exhaust through that. I mean, EGR has been allowed for a long time, even on gas engines and all that. And I mean, I think it goes back to the early, 80s or early 90s as far as that goes with EGR. And that's exhaust gas recirculation, where you're taking a portion of the exhaust gas and putting it back into the intake and reburning it again, which I think that's crazy too. So I mean, you're just putting more. I mean, especially with a diesel, where you're putting all that soot and everything right back into the intake manifold. I mean, if you've ever taken one of the intake manifold pressure and temperature sensors off on these, you can see what's going through. It's all sooted up and everything. So that's going through your charger core, your intercooler up there, that big radiator with the air goes through. Or actually, no, it isn't. That comes after. So sorry. So it actually comes in after the charger core. So it's not going through the charger core. But again, you're putting all that hot gas. I mean, the cooler the intake air, the better. You're going to get better fuel economy and power, because you can, it's denser air. You can pack more air into the engine. So when you're actually taking hot exhaust gas, I mean, you are running it through an EGR core, but you're still not going to get it cooled back down to what ambient air is, or what the air is coming through the intercooler or charger cooler. So I'm not a believer in the systems. I think the older engines before were a lot more reliable. They had it figured out, and it didn't have as many issues. So I'm not against that part of this question. But where was I at? So anyways, this guy turned him in, and I like I said, the last I heard of it, it was like they were looking at like $50,000 fine. That was for the mechanics that actually did the work and did it at this company's mechanics, and plus jail time. So it is, if you get in trouble with it, it's pretty big deal. So I mean, it could put you out of business pretty quick. I mean, if you're a small time operator like me with one truck, and you make $6,000-7,000 a month or something, I mean, that could, time you get into the lawyers, attorneys' fees and all that, I mean, you could be into $100,000 really quick, and that you'd pretty well be doing. So again, if you were going to do this, you need to be either find somebody that can work on it for you. You're going to have to be or set up to work on everything yourself. And there's going to be certain places you can't go. Like you're going to have to be. California actually has these guys. They'll do inspections, and they'll hook up to your truck and see if everything's hooked up like it's supposed to be, and actually there if it's deleted. So you could get caught there, and you face big fines or get your truck impounded or whatever. They could make you put everything. You obviously have to. I mean, if you're caught before you can use that truck again, I mean, besides any other fines or anything, they're going to know, so you're going to have to put everything back to normal, and that could cost you, thousands of, $5,000 to $10,000 to put everything back, and get everything retuned and all that, and they're probably going to make you take it to one of their approved shops or whatever. So So that's so California would probably be out, and I've seen I've been coming out up I-15 from Los Angeles about 6 months ago or so, going to Las Vegas. I was coming into, just went past Prim there and was coming into Nevada, and they have that weigh station there, or inspection station, and they had it open, and they actually had on the on-ramp coming in there, they had a van sitting there, and there was a bunch of sensors and mirrors and like sniffer type things with cords that they were checking. It looked like to me an emission, like a drive-by emissions tester, and they had, like I said, they had mirrors to where they could see up underneath the truck, and that was in Nevada. And I know in Ohio, we have, like in the county I live in, the 5 counties around Cleveland, they have an e-check thing, and I'll see that with there's a guy kind of the same deal. I see him sitting on certain exit ramps, on ramps sometimes. So like once you get on the ramp, you're kind of there. So I mean, it ain't like you can bypass it because you're going down a ramp, and you're not going to back up an on ramp. I know. So and so I don't know what actually he's checking for. I mean, because it's not that. I mean, they're not checking at the weigh stations and stuff in Ohio. But there is. I don't know what they're doing with that data, or if they're, you know, taking pictures of license plates of people that got Cadillac converters taken off or whatever on their vehicles. But there are certain states that are checking. I've heard Delaware at some of the weigh stations. I've heard from, you know, third party other people, word of mouth, that they kind of had some of their sites, they were doing like emissions testing. They're had a sniffer out that was checking exhausts for emissions and all that. So I don't know if that's just data they're collecting, or they're actually looking for people that have done something they're not supposed to be doing. Now, I was thinking about doing a delete on this, and up until like the election there, and I don't want to get too political, you know, on this, and it is what it is. And after the elections, the way they went, it's a definite no for me. I mean, the way things are going to go, I mean, as you can see, today is January 22nd, 2021. As of when the new administration came in, first day, the war on carbon emissions and fossil fuel is back in full swing. I mean, the last 4 years, it's been pretty quiet as far as the old EPA, nothing really much coming out of there. So it's back to business as usual, as it was. You know, things are going to progress, and I actually foresee kind of a snapback, because a lot of people are not happy with the way the last 4 years went. So I think they're going to come back with a kind of extreme prejudice, you know, because they haven't got what they wanted the last 4 years. So I think you could see, I mean, just my opinion, and not only that, they're wanting to get rid of fossil fuels and internal combustion engines by 2030, supposedly, with this whole Green Deal and all this other stuff. But I mean, there's 15 million trucks in this country, for garbage trucks, tractor trailers, day cabs, all that stuff. So there's a lot of trucks, a lot of stuff moving around. So I don't know how you're going to replace 15 million trucks in the course of the next 9 years. So anyways, that's a topic for another day. Like, we could go on and on and on about that. But the thing is, I mean, okay, if you're going to get rid of all these trucks by 2030, I think you're going to start looking for ways to start phasing stuff out. So I foresee in the next couple of years where more California style emissions laws nationwide. And that scares me, because I wouldn't want to do work to this truck and I would cut myself out of California if I did that, and I wouldn't want it to where, I mean, and it'd probably be up to the I mean, if they did pass stricter laws nationwide, I mean, it's going to be up to the states to regulate that and to be checking for that stuff. And you know, a lot of states are going to be like, F you, we're not doing that or whatever. But a lot of them will go along with it. So, I mean, I don't want to be like, oh, I can't go to this state, I can't go to this state, I can't go to that state. I mean, I want to be able to go anywhere. So I'd rather just deal with it and do what I got to do, try to keep up on the maintenance and all that, you know, to be able to go anywhere and continue to do business as I like. So I like I said, me personally, with the way the tuning issue with burning up turbos and stuff like that, I mean, I could probably figure that out, but that's still a fear. I wouldn't want to have to put that money into it. Like I said, most stuff I don't take my truck to the shop anyway, so I wouldn't have to worry about that as much. But kind of the way we are going, like I said, as far as this the war on carbon emissions and fossil fuels and all that, I think it's going to get worse in the next few years as far as you know, regulations and all that. So I personally, I wouldn't recommend it. Like I said, think you're going to see more trouble. You're going to hear more about this in the coming, months or years, so down the road here. So we'll see what happens. That's just my 2 cents and a little bit of facts and opinion in there too. There's a lot of opinion. So hope that helps you out, because I know there was some comments and stuff like that about just deleting it and whatnot, and so that's just my 2 cents on the issue. So hope you enjoyed that. Please comment if you have them, and if you haven't subscribed already, please do that. Give us a thumbs up, hit the bell for the updates. Watch out for new videos. You guys know we do the Landstar stuff, owner operator trucking, truck maintenance videos, farm stuff, old farm equipment, rebuilds, maintenance, all that good stuff, projects around the farm there and all that. So we said, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. Bye.